Welcome, everyone, to the Whisper to Roar Show. This is a show where we share our resources, tools, and support, and our wonderful connections that we have met along the way in our networking and in our speaking. I'm super excited today to introduce you to Mary Elizabeth Jackson. We could go back a couple of years, actually, when I was actually on her writing show for another book called Momentum. And fast forward last year, we were co-authors in the Fearless Entrepreneurs book. And what she's going to be sharing with us today, and I'm super excited, she is launching another one of her children's books. So let me give you just a little bit of background about this incredible woman that I am so honored to have on our show today. So Mary Elizabeth Jackson is a two-time #1 Amazon bestselling author in the collaboration anthologies, The Fearless Entrepreneurs and the international best-selling Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. She is also the 2017 Gold Maxi Award-winning author of the children's book series, Perfectly Precious, Poolicious, and Poolicious Look at Me. Cheers from Heaven, which we're going to be talking about today, is a mid-grade reader releasing this month with co-writer Thornton Klein. She focuses on writing empowering books for kids and is a ghostwriter, a book collaborator, songwriter, and the voice of the Sports Together app. It is my honor and privilege to welcome my new friend, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, to the show. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, Kym. And you know what? I remember having you on the show I do with Bridgetti last year, and that Momentum book. Oh my gosh, I was just so it was very inspiring. And I was so excited to meet you then and everyone else who was collaborating in it. And I had no idea that we were going to be collaborating in a book together, because we can't always see in the future. But I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. Today is a big day because we're pre-releasing the ebook. So I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I know we've had some conversations around this. And so when I think about this month, October, as being International Bully Prevention Month, and I couldn't think of a better time for you to launch this incredible book, I would love for you to share with our listeners here today, how did this book come about? And then we're going to dig into more specifics.
Sure. Well, I had already written this actually, the book was written in 2018, kind of going into 2019. And you know how long it takes for books to come to fruition. So it's had a long journey. And it's written with my co-writer, Thornton Klein. And we had already, well, I had already written Perfectly Precious Poolicious. And we had that published. And then we were going into, we collaborated together on the next two books in that series. The last one just released June 2nd of this year, which was super exciting. But we sat down and we were talking about, what could we write that's really important? What has touched our lives that is still going on today, that is still happening, that would be relevant in today's time and in the future? Well, we hope not in the future, right? But part of this book will hopefully live on in the fact of teaching people to be inspiring and motivating, and being responsible in the things that they do. So that will live on forever. Bullying, we hope, ends and goes away, right? We can hope that, at least. But that's kind of how this book was born, was wanting to come up with a story that would be very relevant today, tomorrow, and forever, actually. So we sat down and, we've been writing ever since then. And we've got an adult book hopefully coming out next year. That's our goal. But we thought about what are all these different things that have affected us and affected other people, that we're not just individuals with these experiences. So that's where this book came from, really. And it actually, part of it's got a piece of a true story in it. It's something that happened when he was in school as a child. There was a child who passed away. And so we kind of sort of began with that as our journey. And we actually the book starts, we come in about 6 months after that incident happened. So that's where it started. And we're just so happy. He was going to be here today, but he couldn't. He had a big meeting with China. So because we are near Nashville, it's sister cities with Chengdu, China. So he had a big music meeting this morning or today and couldn't be with us. So he's here with us in spirit, though.
Yes, for sure. And we do hope to catch him another time after the launch, because I know that's coming up. So I so appreciate what you shared. And I know just in our conversations and when I've interviewed you in the past, I know that you're a special needs advocate and you're an actual ambassador advocate for Autism Tennessee,
Yes,
and also an advisor for the global for-profit Billion Strong. Can you share with us a little bit about that initiative and how you're helping parents and students on the spectrum of awareness toward autism?
Mm, good questions. Thank you for asking. So I became an advocate, of course, actually, when you get pregnant and have a child, you become an advocate immediately for your child. And I have 3 children, 2 of them are on the spectrum. And so I had to become a different kind of advocate that I ever imagined I would be, trying to get my child services, get them things they need medically, having to do research on what was happening with them. And so I actually went and got certified as an advocate at Vanderbilt. And then I was able to go in, and now I'm able to go in for years now to help families get services for their child in school, understand their legal rights, understand kind of that whole process, because there really is a lot to it. And it does tend to make a family or a caregiver or whoever is in charge of that child can feel very lonely and very lost. I remember I was there. I felt that way even the second time with my son after I had already kind of been down that path. It still felt very lonely. And so it's my goal to help give information and resources and help to others so they don't feel as lost. I have a little side note. We have a special needs TV show that's online and it's getting ready to start back up. But on there are interviews of different, medical professionals and families and stories and, information and resources. So I've tried to carry it a little bit further. But I became an ambassador for Autism Tennessee several years ago. And so what I do, actually, we have an event coming up on the 23rd of this month. And we have a special playground here where I live that especially is designed for children with disabilities. It's a fantastic playground. And we've got another one in the city over farther down the road from us. But the focus is, and it's for all children really, but it does have the equipment for the ability for children who are in wheelchairs and, children who are just maybe even on walkers and have sensory issues, all kinds of stuff. And so we're having an awareness expo there, and folks can come by and visit the different organizations that are there. So I'll be there representing Autism Tennessee, giving out resources and information and material that our organization does for families. Now I guess we cover about 43,000 families in this area. And there's all kinds of free, classes and educational things and tools and stuff for families. And Autism Tennessee really does a good job of keeping families abreast of laws and rights and things like that. So they're just a really great organization. And then Billion Strong, I am so excited about being a part of this organization as well. But Billion Strong, you'll have to look them up. So it's Billion-Strong. They are a for-profit organization that is global. And what they do is go in and make sure that companies all over the world hire people with disabilities they're prepared to, they're doing the right thing, they're doing the training for the employee and the employees who work with the employee who might have some challenges. So it's a really great organization led by a woman who is just, well, she's a bulldog. I mean, she's amazing, Deborah Rue, and she's just got this global impact. And she's nonstop. She has a 33-year-old Down syndrome daughter. And that's where her advocacy journey began, was changing the world for her daughter to have a better life. And so it's kind of led into where she is. I mean, we never know what we're going to be facing with our children. And in our own personal family, we had an abuse situation that happened with my daughter. And so that took my advocacy journey to a totally different level, which led me to get involved with the law and policy and helping to change law to make sure that kids are safe in classrooms and make sure that kids are getting what they need. And it's been a long journey, but it's some of it's been it's obviously always very educational, but hopefully always very fruitful. But it is something you got to have a passion for, and you got to be in it for the long haul for sure, you know?
Right. Wow. Education is so important. And thank goodness that we have the means to get what I call, like, we can get educated at a faster pace because of the web, or because of what's going, we're finding out quicker what's going on in our communities and how we can help support and assist. And like you mentioned, your passion for helping the next generation, like to help your children, to educate yourself so that you can help your special needs children navigate through, and then all the incredible work that you're doing in Tennessee and beyond. I'm just in awe of everything that you're
Mhm.
doing, and you're just such an inspiration. And so I thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing. And so our listeners, make sure that you tap into these organizations that Mary Elizabeth is sharing. And, the more educated we are, the better we all become. And then
Mhm.
we support our next generation in that effort as well. So I want to get to the exciting overview of this
Mhm.
book that's called Cheers from Heaven. Can you share with us what is the overview of this book? And I know we're going to be talking a little bit later about the launch and everything official, but can you give us, without telling us everything about the book, because we want to keep the curiosity for our listeners, but tell us the premise and the overview of this exciting book launch?
Yes. Thank you for asking. Well, it is based on there are five friends who they bully a child in one way or another. And this child ends up passing away from cancer or leukemia. And what happens is they end up going on a journey of, they seek redemption. They end up having some guilt. They are seeking forgiveness. And he sends them on an adventure and kind of like a search for clues and information. And it just turns their lives change in ways they never imagined. They grow in ways that they never saw, and it helps them to become a better version of themselves, and as friends together. So in the act of seeking forgiveness, they learn to forgive themselves, and they help to teach their fellow students how to be better students to one another. And so, the end of the story is left with a little bit of a mystery. So we're hoping that it might go on to a next book, but we're not sure yet. We're still kind of contemplating that. We want to get this one off and out there into the world, and hope that the the messages in this book will really touch families and kids. It's really great for ages 8, I would say, all the way up to like 13. And, that's going to depend on where your child's intellectual ability is at and their reading skill. And of course, always a child, if they can't, read it really well yet, always an adult can, read it to them, or a caregiver, which, starting that at birth, when a baby is first born, even when they can't see, but they can hear you, they can see colors on a page. They can see, when they're starting to be able to see, if they can see the big faces, that teaches them that message that this is an important thing in life that I'm looking at right now with my mom or dad or caregiver, whoever's with that child. And so it's really good to start that out early, because we know literacy affects every single area of our lives. So starting that out young is just, paramount. And it's interesting when we get those questions, right, from our little ones. Well, why do I need to learn to read? Because, that happens. Another thing is when you have a child who has a learning disability, or maybe a language just delay, or maybe was nonverbal, they will tend to have struggles with reading, maybe be later bloomers with reading, maybe even resistant because their comprehension may be challenged with reading. And so, I I've gone through that with two of my kids. And so the interesting answer, I think that, the appropriate answer obviously is to try to get them to understand reading is everything. And if you want to grow up and be this, you need to know how to read. If you want to learn how to cook and you want to be able to put together a toy that you got, you need to know how to read those instructions. So you kind of try to, bring it down to that level so they understand the value of reading at their level of understanding.
That is so important. Just echoing what you said, the power in reading and to navigate is so important. And then I also loved what you mentioned about forgiveness, because even as adults, sometimes it's really easy for us to forgive other people, but we often forget about forgiving ourselves. And so
Mm.
hearing that is also part of the book Cheers from Heaven. And so I'm excited to read this incredible book and to, see your story, your thoughts, your ideas unfold, and the curiosity at the end. So everybody loves a
Yeah.
good curiosity factor. And so
Yeah.
I'm so excited to read the book and have it in my hands here soon.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you too, because I can't wait to see what you think about it. You just never know. And we had so many people involved in this story, like a couple of at least one of the characters is based on one of my daughter's friends, and it has her name. And so like they're very excited because
Oh,
we used her personality in this character. And that's so much fun to do, and to see how it kind of comes about, and to kind of be able to take from people in your life and write about something that has their personality in it is really kind of unique, I think.
yes, yes, and it's definitely a connection. I would think, not only for your daughter, but her friend as well. And I understand that your daughter did the illustration in the book. So can you share with us a little bit about your daughter's involvement? And I think there was some editing, and, it looks like this was really a family project that was done together as well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So my middle daughter, she's a published illustrator now, so very proud of her. She just turned 18. She's got several books under her belt. She is writing a YA fantasy herself. She's in over 80,000 words in it, which I'm like, whoa, right? I've not written something that big. So I'm like, oh, you're my hero, but this is a child who was nonverbal. I mean, I didn't get to hear her say I love you until she was 4 years old. So when she said it to me the first time, I cried, not only for being able to hear those words, but I didn't realize that I hadn't heard them before, like at seeing it that way, and how much we take that stuff for granted in life. When you've got a child who can't talk, it's like, wow, what we take so many things for granted in the world, don't we? Until you have situations like that happen. And she would do what's called cluttering. So she would go, "Dicka, dicka, 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 where to go, to go?" Okay, mommy. This was how she spoke. So I had to teach her her own language. That's kind of how I looked at it. We had to teach her English because she was speaking in another language pretty much. And I was like, how am I going to teach this child of mine her ABCs? Because she can't say them. So I taught them to her in phonetic sounds. And that's how she would sound things out until she could learn how to talk. And so it's so interesting to learn things like this in your life. I don't know, it opens up a whole new world. But oh, we love that song, right? Whole New World. But I'm going to show you the cover of the book. And so Lily did the cover here. And this is digital art. So she does a lot of digital artwork.
That is
And so
so incredible.
I love the vibrancy of it. And so those are the five friends sitting on the hill. And so then the rays of sun are Drew, because it's coming down from heaven. So I think it's just really special, to be able to have her capture, to have an illustrator capture where your mind is and what you're trying to portray is really quite special. The illustrations that she did inside the book are all pencil. And actually right now she's doing a children's book for somebody, and it will be all digital art, which I can't wait to see that book, because you see how vibrant the colors are. That's going to be amazing. So I get excited every time she does a page, because I'm like, oh, I can draw stick figures. You know, I could do that in
That is
flowers.
so
That's it.
exciting. Yes,
Yeah.
and I think
So
it's again, all the education that you've poured yourself in to help her and that she can express her creativity and, be in this book. I just think that is so amazing.
it is. And I would say, and then my oldest daughter did the editing in the book along with a cousin of mine. But what I did with my girls, and I do it with my son, my kids are very spread out. And I really believe, well, we know that we're creative beings and we're meant to be creative.
Yes,
Whatever form that takes is different for everyone. But when a child does not have that kind of an outlet, and it doesn't mean you have to spend lots of money, but just finding those outlets for them so they can express how they're feeling because their emotions are so huge. And we know how much they change going from elementary to middle. They're just like, whoa, it's like a roller coaster ride for those 3 years they're in middle school. And even in high school, they need an outlet. They need a way to express themselves. So what I would do with my girls is I would say, okay, let's write it out, dance it out, sing it out, draw it out, play an instrument. I don't care. Just get it out of you. And then we'll talk about it because then you can formulate how you feel. Even if a child cannot verbally say how they feel, at least it'll give them a way to process and a way to be able to communicate with you. My oldest daughter has always had a hard time saying how she feels. I mean, she's 21 and she still gets stuck. And so for her, writing was her path. And so she can write how she feels. And then I pick it up and look at it and read it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And then we can have a conversation about it. Right. But what it also does is I think it allows children to, and for adults, we need it too, right? We all need an outlet somehow, whether that's playing intramural sports or you're jogging every day or yoga or whatever it is, praying. And, that helps us to get it out of here and somewhere else. So like it's in front of us. And then we can go, oh, wow. Okay, that doesn't look so awful anymore, or feel so awful anymore. And now I can maybe come at it from a clearer viewpoint to be able to
yes,
process it. So we can teach our kids these tools. I mean, think about, I think it helped my kids have a different life so that they can still process. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but it gave them tools so that they weren't punching holes in the wall or screaming, I hate you, and shutting the door. And, we're not talking for days. And, or somebody's depressed
right.
in the closet and not eating. We didn't go through that stuff because they had an outlet to be able to express what was happening.
Which is so important because I often talk
Yeah.
about soft skills. I do soft skills consulting and even leaders, some of the, they struggle with trying to keep their employees engaged and to keep people on the path toward the project. And
Mhm.
what happens when emotions take over, and those emotions take over because of fear, uncertainty, like whatever the backstory is, and I often say, sometimes it's like peeling an onion, or it's like shopping carts all smashed up together and you can't get one unhooked, because sometimes those things that happen in our life, they start piling up. And then until there's an emotion or a behavior that's acted out, you may not even realize that you're dealing with this old thing in the past. And so when I hear about this book and I hear you share, I even think about soft skills for adults, like, you know, some of this socializing and these social aspects may not have been taught at a younger age, with absentee parent, parents so busy in their work, or parents that were dealing with their own issues. And so I kind of see the spread of that, and I also see where children's books are often very beneficial in the soft skills realm, to
Mm.
help and teach adults that may not have been nurtured in that way growing up. And so I'm wondering, what is the purpose that you see for this book, and how can we apply this lesson into our real lives, not only for children, but for adults as well? Can you share a little bit about that for us?
Sure. So in the back of the book, there's like 10 to 12 different applications that could be used, applications, tools that can be used per child or for a child and can be used in groups or whole classrooms or even an entire school together. And so, some of the things to learn from this book and to take away and to apply is, asking a child, have they ever bullied anyone? Making sure that children understand, because what I've come across, even with my own children and their friends, sometimes, especially when they're younger, they don't really understand what bullying means. They're taught about it in school, but there's not that real pure understanding of like, okay, that's just something mean somebody said. That doesn't mean they're a bully. Maybe they were cranky. Maybe they learned, maybe something happened at home this morning, but just because they were kind of cranky doesn't mean they're a bully. There's a difference there. But what comes from that is teaching a child how to own what's happening for them, to understand what's happening. Why am I feeling this way? Like if my son gets really, I mean, even at 8, he's been taught so much of this that he at 8 years old, even being on the autism spectrum and having sensory processing and language process, he can tell me how he feels. Like I could say, okay, buddy, what's going on? I'm just so excited, mommy. I'm like, okay, so let's sit down for a minute and calm down, because he can't get himself calmed down enough. So, but addressing it, saying it out loud kind of diffuses a little bit. So when a child can understand what they're feeling, whether it's anger or bitterness or hate, or they've been abused at home or by a sibling, or a family member or something, if they can put a word to it, if they can put a feeling to it, we can help them get past it, whether it requires them owning up to what they've done, their part in it, and being able to take responsibility for it so that they course correct their behavior, or being able to forgive others and understand you're not a victim, you can be a victor in this situation. So I'm hoping this book can start these conversations, can be used in schools to help kids with their mental health well-being, because boy, we know that's a huge thing right now, right? For adults,
Exactly.
college, high school, middle, even even younger children. And so the applications in there are made, they are there to help with this process, with teaching it and being able to use it as well. And hopefully kids can take it home and apply it. And if they're not getting that support at home, but they're getting it at school, at least they're getting it somewhere. And they can come to understand maybe what they've been taught maybe isn't the best thing, but there is a better way, And like our friend Sherry Leopold says, it's not about the bull, it's not about you who's being bullied. It is about the bully and what's happening or happened to them. And so we need to help kids understand that, and adults as well. Like my daughter had a horrible roommate her first year in college. I mean, it was awful. And so what she learned from that was really, it was about the other person and
Yes.
her home life and her upbringing and what she didn't have, but was also taught was okay. She was taught whatever she did was fine. Well, you can't do that in the world. You need to be respectful of others, and you need to be aware, and you need to be responsible and have boundaries. So, this also teaches boundaries as well. What is okay, what's not okay. Where can I hold myself accountable to be better,
Right.
and then it's
So
okay.
many
It's cool to be kind.
so many great lessons, and like we've mentioned before, even adults will get sidelined from someone saying something, and they'll start feeling like I'm not enough, or I did something wrong, or what is wrong with me, and they'll get what I call in that mental court about themselves, instead of taking a step back, breathing, and realizing that this other person is going through something that's not even related to us. And so
Right.
I thank you so much for sharing that, because it sounds like this book has so many lessons that we can all learn, whether we're a child or an adult, and even help us as adults help to support other people when we recognize that they're under stress, or they're feeling an insecurity, or they're feeling a fear. We can
Mhm.
help by educating ourselves to help and support them. So thank you so much for sharing that. So
Mhm.
when is this book official launch? Like, what is the official launch date?
Well, today actually is a pre-launch. So you can go onto Amazon, or you can actually go to my website, and I'll tell you my website in a minute, but you can get the ebook there for $2.99. And then next Tuesday, October 19th, we are launching the soft cover, or the, the paperback and the hardback. And that will be available on my website, which is www.maryejackson.com. So it's MARY, the letter E, and then JACKSON. And all of my books are there. Even our book is there, and that we were in together. And you can also find the book, my books, on Tuscany Bay Books. So that's TUSCANYBAYBOOKS. Yeah, books. And that's my publisher. So I thank him so much for believing in this. He's really excited about this book. So is my publicist, Mickey Mickelson, with Creative Edge Publicity. I thank both of them so much for being on this journey with Thornton and I, and just their belief. It's, you've got to surround yourself with people who believe in the projects that you're working on, or an idea that you have. And if somebody doesn't believe in it, find somebody else who will, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I would just want to remind our listeners, when you get that ebook or you get the actual book in your hand, please go out there and put a review out on Amazon,
Yes,
because
please.
again, this is International Bully Prevention Month, and we want this message of cheers from heaven, forgiveness, and to recognize when we are being bullied and not be the victim. And so I just want to reiterate, make sure that you leave those reviews, because people look at those, and this message definitely needs to be out there. So Mary Elizabeth, what is one tip or closing thoughts that you would have for our audience today?
Wow. Well, I love yourself enough, love your kids enough to help them make those changes where you and your child feel more empowered in life, because the tools are there. We just, sometimes we have to apply them. We have to look for them, right? So I would say love yourself enough. This is about self-care too, isn't it? And we know that's a buzzword too right now. So be better to yourself and help your kids be better to themselves. So we can help change a generation to be more positive. Being positive and inspiring and motivating is so much more powerful than bullying. It's so much more powerful in a different way. Bullying is a very powerful, harmful thing. This is powerful in a positive, uplifting way.
Yes, very, very wise words from the fabulous Mary Elizabeth Jackson. So excited for you in this launch. I'm so glad that our paths crossed from our mutual connection, and that we're on this journey supporting you and this incredible book, Cheers from Heaven. So be sure it's in pre-launch. Go out there and support. If you know of someone who could really use this book, gift it. Gift it to someone or some child in special needs or other. Like, this is
it's for all kids.
For all kids,
and bullying happens
such
all over the planet.
application to apply.
Yes,
so
and it happens all over our planet. So it applies to everyone, right?
Yes, yes. And I love getting, those nuggets of information. They can come from anywhere, even a children's book. And so I'm just so excited for you. And I can't thank you enough for being with us today in the middle of a big launch, and sharing this message, and helping other people overcome through forgiveness and awareness, and what you talked about earlier, the application to real life. So thank you so much for being with us. And I know we're keeping up with you on this journey as this book launches next week.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here and to talk to everybody who is watching and on the replays and all that fun stuff. We're so, so, so grateful to have this opportunity. And, this got a lot of heart and passion in this book and this story and the applications there.
Yes. So thank you all for joining us today on the Whisper to Roar Show, where we are interviewing these incredible guests and giving you tools, resources, and support on your networking journey. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.